Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Crazy D's Equipment. So, welcome to my humble abode. We're going to do something a little different. Me and the doc went up to the shop and we were going to do a video on finishing up the banana tractor, as we keep calling it. But it was so windy and so cold at the shop today, we were like, forget this. And we were sitting around laughing, or we're sitting around talking, we started laughing about as a top 10, or well, we said we could do a top 2,500 list of bad buys, tractors that we bought and either lost money at or were just a bad buy all around. So that's what we decided to do today for this Wednesday's video. Is me and the doc made a list of the top 10 worst buys, tractor buys that we did, and that's what we're going to do today, guys. So guys, before me and the doc start this list, I just want to say, if you enjoy this kind of content or you find this video interesting, please remember to subscribe to the channel. It's cheap, it's easy to do, and hit the bell icon. If you enjoy any of the videos on the channel, not just this one, any of the videos, please share them out there. Get them out there for other people can see them and let people know what you like about them. And also, if you guys are curious about what tractors did make it to the lot, go to Facebook and you can see, go to Omega Ag and you can see what's on the lot. We also have Crazy D's Facebook page. You can just see what we're up to. And then if you just want to see pictures, and I will later on post pictures of all these tractors on Instagram too, other ones that we didn't use for the video. You can go up over there to go up to Instagram to Crazy D's and you can check out those pictures later on. So otherwise, let's get this list started.
10.
Ford Super Major Diesel backhoe. The Ford Super Major backhoe we bought up in eastern Kansas. We gave $550 for it. When we got there was supposed to be somebody there to help us load it. There wasn't. It was supposed to run. It didn't. Daniel and me were able to get it up on the trailer. We got it home. The boys started to work on it. Daniel could not. Well, you couldn't. The pump was. What was wrong with
It was just shot.
the pump? The pump was shot on it and stuff. So we were just about to have a Purple Wave auction. So we went to work and we put that thing on there, and we ended up selling it for $2,800. Not a loss. We actually ended up making about $1,800 on the thing, but all around, I placed it here on the list at this point because it was probably one of the biggest hassles tractors we ever had to deal with. The guy that we bought it from was flighty. He'd say one thing and do another. The tractor was supposedly supposed to have been ran a year ago, and the way that the controls for the backhoe were froze up, there was no way that thing had been run anytime soon, or anytime in the last, 5 years, you would think?
At least, because some of the main station stuff was frozen too.
Yeah, so there's no way that thing had been run. On the way home, we blew 3 hydraulic lines on the tractor and had to concoct a freaking web of straps to
and
keep the boom from wanting to swing back and forth. So it's not a huge loss, but the reason I placed it where I did here on the list is because it was probably the biggest hassle that we had.
9.
Cub Lowboy. Cub Lowboy, I got from a gentleman down by, I forget exactly where, but out in eastern Kansas. The tractor was supposed to be running, used it all the time, blah, 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 blah. Me and the doc drove out there and picked it up. It was running when we got there, and we were in a hurry. I should have checked things more than I did, but we were in a hurry to get back home. The weather was supposed to be changing, and we wanted to get back here before it hit. So we got the little tractor loaded up, and we drove back. And when we got home, we just rolled it off the trailer by hand because the battery was dead. About 3 days later, the doc got back to it, and we put a battery on it, and you found it wouldn't start, and it wouldn't start, and it wouldn't start, and the doc found on the cub low.
But that one had fairly low compression.
Fairly low compression. Fairly low compression?
Okay, had almost no compression.
Had almost no compression to it. You had to change the oil all the time because you ran it for more than a couple hours, and the oil would be almost more gas than it was oil.
You could almost use it to run a chainsaw.
Yeah, you really could. You could really
honestly
almost use it for chainsaw fuel. But anyways, I gave $1,000 for it. I sold it for $1,300, but I put some of the stuff that we put in it trying to fix it, and we redid plugs and all kinds of stuff on it. And so in the end on that one, it ended up being a $400 loss. Not bad, but again, really, one of those things where you've learned that maybe you should be a little bit leery if you get there and the tractor's already running and the guy's kind of in a toot for you guys to get it loaded and stuff. That was kind of a bad ordeal all the way around. So that's why I've placed it here on the list.
8.
Case LAI. Case LAI. I bought this from a guy down in Wellington. It was supposed to be a newer restoration job. It had a homemade loader on it that was it wasn't bad. They didn't do a bad job, but it wasn't great either. So me and the doc again, we ran down there to get it. It had supposed to have been sitting for a few years, and they couldn't get it to run. And so we went down, we got it loaded up, we brought it home, we rolled it off the trailer, and the doc actually got onto that one right away. Got everything cleaned up and stuff on it, but you tell him everything you had to do to that thing. That's the LAI.
I'm trying to think. It was quite a few things, so I'm not sure where to start.
Well,
besides, we
replaced all the plug wires.
And we
replaced the plugs.
Yeah.
Cleaned the fuel system.
Yeah.
Cleaned the carburetor. We didn't put a kit in it, but we did do a complete cleanup of the carburetor. And then you had to pull the distributor out.
Yeah.
And we had a broken gear on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And you put that gear in, and stuff, but we could never get it timed right to get it spiked or get it to start. We could never get it in there right.
It was hard to get it to line up right, and because they had the pump built onto the side, it was kind of all part of that. And when you slide the pump in, it would turn it turns the bug or the gear a little bit, and turn the bug just far enough that no matter how far you try to adjust, you were not going to get it to spark.
Ended up selling that thing for $1,100. I gave $1,000 for it. We sold it for $1,100. With everything Daniel put in it and stuff, it ended up to being a $850 loss. But yeah, that was just a bad ordeal all the way around.
Yeah.
That's why I placed it where I have here on the list.
7.
John Deere 4020. John Deere 4020 we bought at an auction up by Concordia, Kansas. It was supposed to be running when park kind of tractor, one of those things the farmer just got too old to farm. The kids swore that Dad was using that right up to the time Dad quit farming. It had been sitting for about 5 or 6 years, and it definitely had been sitting in that spot for a while. So it was a diesel. We were able to get it, we got it loaded, we got it home, and when we got it home and I had time to look at it, I noticed that if you could grab the fan and everything was a mess. I just kind of looked, something was wrong there. The doc got to working on that one. He pulled the pan, and Lord behold, every single thing, the whole bottom end of that motor was laying in that oil pan.
Yeah, all the main and rod bearings were pretty much laying in the bottom.
It was totally gone inside there. I gave $2,500 for the tractor. I sold it to Abilene Machine for $1,800. So I took about a $700 loss on that one. Another little story, another little, what to take away from this is beware when buying tractors on auctions. And that's why I've placed it where I have on the list.
6.
Minneapolis Moline M5. Minneapolis Moline M5. I bought this over by El Dorado. Was it? Yeah, El Dorado, Kansas. We gave $1,100 for it. The doc got to working on it right away. Was actually thinking about possibly maybe keeping the tractor for himself. If we pulled it, it would start, but it wouldn't start on its own. On the auction, they claimed that they had it running the day before, which me and Daniel didn't buy. Right, me and the doc didn't buy at all. We knew that was poppycock. We could just tell by the way the tractor looked that thing hadn't run in a while. The huge patch rat nest on top of the engine block was your first clue.
Yeah.
But he got it all cleaned up. You ended up replacing a regulator on it.
Yeah.
You put new plugs. You put new wires.
We replaced the heads because
he put new heads on it because he was going to.
was pulling the plugs, and they had one of the plugs was helicoiled, and it came out with the plug.
I had a set of rebuilt heads in my part stash, so I gave those to him, and he put those on. And then it had a habit, once we did try to start cranking it over and getting it running, it had a habit of breaking the breaking starters. It would actually snap the head off the starters.
The cone in.
The cone in off the starters and stuff. So we went through 3 starters before he gave up and on the tractor, and we just sold it as is on Purple Wave. The tractor brought $850, and I cannot tell you. I'm just going to call it a $250 loss, because if we figured in all the parts and stuff that we put into that tractor, it would have been. I don't even want to think of how much money we lost on that one. So we're just going to call that one a $250 loss and just step away from it at that point. I think is what we decided to do there. So that's why I placed it where I have on the list.
5.
D17 Allis-Chalmers. D17 Allis-Chalmers. I bought this from a gentleman over by Eureka, Kansas. It was what was his dad's tractor. I was given the story that Dad used it every day to feed hay, and then when Dad passed away, he took it, the son got it in the estate, and he said the clutch, that he'd used it for a couple days, but it felt like the clutch was going bad. So I went ahead and I purchased a tractor from him. We gave him $975 for the tractor. We brought it home, and Daniel went to work, or Doc went to work, and he pulled the loader off and stuff, and he was getting ready to split the tractor, and just by accident or whatever, or you pulled the radiator off and stuff, and we were cleaning the dirt out from underneath where the pulley is up front, and Daniel could grab the pulley on the front of the motor.
It would move about that far forward.
Tung, 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 tung. And we dropped a pan on it, and the crankshaft was broken in half. So that one there, I ended up selling to Abilene Machine also. They bought it from me for $800. So we're just going to call that one a $175 loss and walk away from it there. And again, the thing is, when it comes to Allis-Chalmers, I could make a top 10 list of where I've lost money on Allis's alone. I'll be honest with you. But that one there's probably the most irritating one, because the guy was so certain that Dad had just wore the clutch out. It just needed the clutch. So, but it was a very frustrating ordeal, and that's why I've placed it where I have on the list.
4.
Case 800 Omatic. Case 800 Omatic. I got from a friend, a pseudo friend, a guy that you kind of know, but you don't know real well, kind of friend. You know what I'm talking about? Acquaintance, maybe that. He picked his tractor up on an auction. The auctioneer had told him that the auction claimed that it just needed a clutch, that it was a tractor, which putting a clutch in a tractor doesn't scare me at all. No. I mean, we've bought so many tractors that all we had to do was split them and slap a clutch in them and put them back together, and they were a damn good tractor. And people had, nobody wanted to buy it at the auction because he had to do that work. Putting a clutch in a tractor is no big deal at all. I mean, you just get in there and get her done. But this tractor here, the doc went to work and pulled the side plates off by the transmission to check to see how bad the clutch was, or see if you could see what all it was going to entail. And right there's a carrier bearing. It's the shaft that goes into the carrier bearing. There's a bearing behind that. There's a piece of cast that holds that bearing into place. That your what's that shaft called?
The input shaft.
Your input shaft rides in, and that casting there was all busted out.
Yeah, and the bearing was in pieces on the bottom of the transmission or the housing there.
Tractor ran great. I mean, it wasn't the most prettiest thing in the world, but it ran great. But that was all busted out there, and so I went into the process of trying to hunt down a because the only thing you can do there is replace the whole transmission housing. You're just going to have to replace the whole transmission housing. And I started looking for one, and I found some stuff, and I found one here, and I found one there, and I found one here, but I never found what it was exactly the one I was needing and stuff. And finally, I just threw it up on Craigslist for sale. I gave $1,500 for the tractor. I threw it up on Craigslist. A guy come along. We showed him what was going on with it. He wasn't scared of it at all, and he gave me $1,000 for the tractor. So all I ended up losing was $500 there. But I think that's the worst thing I've ever found opening a transmission so far. Knock on wood that stays that way. But that's why we put it where we have on the list.
3.
Farmall H. Farmall H. Same friend that I got the Case 800 from brought me this Farmall H. I paid him what he paid for it on the auction. We had it around. Daniel Doc put new points in it. He put new plugs and wires in it, and we changed the oil on the tractor and stuff because it hadn't been done for a while. Because it was barn fresh. We drove it around the farm for a little bit, and stuff. And I finally decided, well, let's get it sold. So I popped it up on the internet, and I had a guy come and look for it, or come and look at it. And Doc was driving it up the driveway, and all of a sudden, bringing it up from the back of the farm for me, bringing it up the driveway, and I didn't hear any. I heard the tractor not running. I didn't know what was going on. And here come the Doc, and he told me to call the guy and tell him not to bother, because the engine had
a rod out the side of it.
A rod out the side of it. The motor had totally freaking shelled.
Yeah.
So that one balances out this way. I gave $650 for it. I made not a single dime on it, and I was out $650. So it was a total loss. And that's why I placed it where I have on the list.
2.
Massey Ferguson 65. Massey Ferguson 65. I got this from a guy just on the edge of town here, my hometown of Halstead. It had been sitting outside of his garage for a while, or his barn for a while. They used to use it to do a lot of mowing and stuff like that and stuff. And he just got to the point where his business was just using up all his time. So he, instead of doing the mowing and that kind of stuff himself, he had just been hiring a guy. So he hadn't been using the tractor, hadn't used it for years. I offered to buy it. He sold it to me. At the time, it was an LP tractor. It was out of propane, so we didn't try to start it or anything. We got it pulled up on the trailer. He said he was having trouble at the end with the 3-point working, and I thought, well, that's no big deal. You know, could be low in fluid. It could be something easy. We got it home. It took the Doc forever to figure out what was going on with the 3-point, and it ended up just being this one little valve that wasn't turned on. And once you figured that thing out, the 3-point worked fine. And so I was getting ready to sell it, and we were bringing it. There's kind of a theme here. So we were bringing it up from the back of the farm, getting it ready to take it over to the lot and stuff. The same as, I just noticed something. That H blew up doing that. That's when that 601 started to smoke, and that's when this happened. So he was bringing it up to the from the back of the farm to take out to the lot, and the clutch blew. It just came apart in there.
We wouldn't shift. We wouldn't shift into gear all of a sudden.
Oh, just wouldn't shift into gear all of a sudden. And
there's this plate underneath under the clutch, and I took the bolts out, and I pulled that clutch out, and three of the fingers that pushed the clutch in hit me in the forehead.
Came flying out of there. So I got the thing up in the yard, and we took it up to the lot, and got it in the shop, and we got it split, and it did a bunch of damage inside there when that happened. And then we found some other things that were wrong.
There's some pretty catastrophic damage.
Yeah, and stuff. And I ended up, how that one's never got ended. We got put back together. It got shoved to the back of the farm. So I gave $850 for that tractor, and I've never sold it. I've never got my money back out of it. So that one's sitting at a $850 loss. And that's why I placed it where I have on the list.
1.
Case 930. Case 930. We bought this thing down in Stewart. I want to say Stewart, Oklahoma, but I don't think that's right. It's kind of a little town over in the Oklahoma Ozarks. So we were almost to Arkansas, but not quite.
We were somewhere around, maybe a little north of Tulsa area.
Yeah, north of Tulsa, or I would say east and north of Tulsa area, if you know Oklahoma very well. The tractor was brought to my attention. It supposedly steered hard, but it was still drivable. And So I went ahead and purchased a tractor thinking that's no big deal. I've replaced the steering gearbox before on one of those. I got a guy that buys them up from, or, I've talked to you guys before about Greg in Wisconsin and how he buys up those 930s from me all the time. So I figured I had an outlet for it and stuff. And we went to work and we made the drive all the way out to Oklahoma, which on the map, Daniel was like, oh yeah. Doc's like, oh yeah, I've been there before. That won't take long. It took freaking forever. And then he doesn't, I totally didn't think about this, that where we were driving in the country, and we ended up in the Ozarks. So up and down the hills, left and right, I'm a Kansas guy. I don't mind a few little hills, but I don't like that. That's not when you got a 1-ton truck that's not a dually with a trailer with two 7,000-pound axles on it, and then you throw a 930 case on there, which is 10,000 plus pounds, plus the homemade loader that was on the thing, going up and down those hills, and brakes that were fine for Kansas, but not good for the Ozarks. There was a couple times there I thought that we weren't coming home. I really thought that we were going off the edge of one of those embankments and we were not coming home. But we finally did get the tractor home. The guy drove it up on the trailer for us, so we didn't yet really know how bad it was till we got it home, and the doc tried to unload it off the trailer at the lot, and he it wouldn't steer at all. The steering wheel would steer and it just go tink, 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 tink. The gears were just not even grabbing. They were so rusted off.
It really wasn't doing much of that. We got to the point where I got it apart, and remember I pulled the plate off for it, and this water just gushed out of that, out of the box.
The great part about that is not the only place where water gushed out of it. It gushed out of the motor. It gushed out of the rear end. It gushed out of the hydraulic pump. It gushed out of places where I didn't even know water could go on that thing. Ended up that the whole tractor was a loss. Nothing on that was, there was parts that could be saved. Greg ended up not buying that one from me. I still have it today. It is tore down in the building completely. I gave $1,800 for it. I lost $1,800 on it because I never sold it. I never did anything with it. And it is probably one of the absolute worst ordeals that I have ever dealt with. I've made a new rule because I've had some other bad experiences. We have a new rule. I buy nothing from Oklahoma because every time I do, it ends up being absolute junk. Not saying anything bad about Oklahoma, not saying anything bad about people who live in Oklahoma, but I'm just not lucky enough to pick the good stuff out of Oklahoma, so no more buying stuff from Oklahoma. But that is why I have placed it where I have on the list.